Reading books for past memory recognition is really valuable exercise for dementia residents because it taps them into that past memory bank, which is often more active or more accessible than what present memory is. So books that really help in terms of past memory recognition are memory lane books. There's on the 1950s, the 1960s, 1940s, the war, 1950s, the coronation, 1960s, the Beatles. All these eras were very big, huge, important eras, and so many dramatic events happened in this time that these elderly people went through. So if they can have books that have lovely big photos and big, good, clear script that they can read and read with you, then it's a great advantage for their cognition and their, their thinking capacity to be able to get those memory tracks and neural pathways going in terms of thinking, and reading is definitely the way to do this. So once you've got the book, you can, you'll know from your parents, say it's your father, if he, went to the war, or his parents went to the war and he was a young child when his father was at the war, it will still be, a strong memory in his brain. So if you can bring in those pictures of the war and with all their, outlined and descriptions of each event in the war, chances are he will remember that. And the good thing as well is that if, he discusses a little bit about it with you, it's of interest to you as well. You can learn it, because often, if men have been to war in the family context, they won't discuss it. But if you bring a book about the war with the pictures and, ask Dad, this picture here, the Somme, or this particular battle in Egypt, you were in Egypt, so this is the battle in Egypt. Is this where you were? And he may well say yes, and explain a little bit about it to you. So then it becomes of interest to you as well as the dementia resident, which is really ideal, because if it interests you as well as them, then it's like mutual enjoyment, isn't it? I mean, it's not really such a great thing if you're doing all the giving, or you're, presenting on a topic that you're not really enjoying. Mind you, I mean, what actually happens is, even if you're not interested initially, generally you find that you become interested, especially when the dementia resident, loves it and can give you interesting information which is relevant for your life. And yeah, history's good. It's good for everyone. We all learn from history, and it gives us another, objectivity and perspective. So in that way we can learn and gain and grow, and as well as the dementia resident getting their thinking tracks going. So it's always good when it's mutually beneficial. Then there's a motivation for coming to the dementia unit, not just out of duty and obligation, but because you want to come, because there's an interesting activity at hand. You learned something last time about the war, you were reading up on it a bit at home, and now you've got some questions to ask Dad about it, and you've got maybe some photo albums that you've managed to dig out of him at the war, and captions underneath, and maybe you've blown those up or handwritten bigger captions so he can read them. And then you can go through that with him and learn some, very valuable information about that generation's experience. And so, it's enriching to be able to get that valuable information, which is otherwise lost unless we access it. In terms of other past memory activation, the 1950s is fantastic. The coronation, 1953, most residents, dementia residents, the elderly generation, remember the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. They can't forget that. I mean, for many of them, it was the first time they'd seen television live, often at a neighbour's place or a community hall or something. They were so expensive in those days. And so, picture of the Queen with all the regalia at the coronation day, that will, because it's a big memory, big, powerful memories, are the ones that, are retained longest. And it's very unlikely that a dementia resident wouldn't remember the Queen's coronation. I mean, there's been so many books on it since as well, in every woman's magazine, you know, all the women remember it. So, you know, it's a good anchor memory actually to start with. If it's hard to get the focus and interest going, if you can just start with the good big anchor memories, and then you can sort of spread out from there once the focus is, you know, developed. The Beatles, 1960s, that's sort of later on, but you know, they may well have had an interest in the hippie era if they're younger, especially younger person in their 70s, and you know, they will have been maybe part of that, you know, love, peace and war campaigns that went on, and non-violence and anti-discrimination against the black people in America and South Africa, and you know, anti-Vietnam War, etc. So yeah, there's lots of things to discuss. So the discussion is good, of course, too, because it brings about that cognition. The past memory banks are activated, so it's good at the present moment, you know, to get that cognition and discussion going, getting their memory harnessed. But also reading, get that cognition going with the reading, because you want them to be able to read when you're not there, when you're not visiting, so that in between they're able to make that effort to read, you know, and garner that cognition and those memory, those thinking tracks, those neural pathways for the reading, which will spare them and save them, you know, redirect them away from the dementia stress, which is the purpose of the exercise, to improve their quality of life. So, okay, so I've read these two books I've written, the dementia, the Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit, and the Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit. If, for example, you're reading it or you've got a copy of it, here, what's this one? Name and photo board on door. Okay, so photo board on the door. So you're thinking, okay, so you're going to get this organised for your mother. You can discuss it with her and say, you know, Mum, would you like me to put, you know, the photos on your door so that you can recognise it? We've done all the direction orientation. You know how to find your room now. You can, you know, we've got your name in big letters on the door, your room number 168. You know that you can direct yourself there, which is really good. But would you like a picture there as well? You know, a family picture. And she may well say, well, yes, actually, that would be great, because just when I'm a bit confused, at least I'll recognise the picture and be able to go with that. So you can ask her, well, you know, we'll actually even bring in the photo album and she can pick one that she recognises easily and that she likes, you know, might be her on her wedding day. You know, that's a favourite, of course, and maybe you can blow that up a bit, so that when she goes along the long white, you know, corridor, same looking doors, at least her one will stand out with the wedding picture. So that's just one way of being able to bring about past memory recognition, and it helping her practically as a positive practical technique in her life to be able to find her room, not just with the name and number, but the photo there as well. If she's jumbled in the thinking, or she's going through a dementia turn, dementia spin, dementia blank, at least hopefully she can see that photo sparking the past memory, and she'll be able to align with that. So thank you, that's it for today for past memory recognition and practical positive techniques to be able to help with that. Thank you for your, oh yes, the two books are in the description below, the website www.pietavalentine.com, and you'll see reviews and extracts in that website. Under the reviews, I've got 25 videos from each book, from both books, so ad-free. You can see them there peacefully and quietly. And then under the reviews as well, there's radio interviews that you can look at that you might be interested to listen to. Kate Delaney from America and Geraldine Tugalove from Australia. So thank you for your looks and your likes and your subscriptions. And if you enjoy this channel, find it interesting and useful, please subscribe and pass on to other people, you know, who are working with dementia, to be able to help them as well. Thank you.